understand why you're here and how to live on purpose and in divine harmony. It all starts with the relationship to self. This is the foundation to building a solid relationship with the divine source so you may live intentionally. When we live on purpose and share our passions, we live a fulfilled life. Every week, we have a discussion, and this week's discussion is why do we trust the process? So, for those of you who are joining for the first time, maybe live or listening to the podcast, I invite you to share in the comments any questions or comments you have, and we're going to flip the script this week, and I want to hear from you. Truly want to hear, help me understand, what does this phrase, trust the process, mean for you? How does it work in your life? Please share in the comments. So I want to talk about this because in my experience, trusting the process, that phrase, just I can't wrap my mind around it. I'm having a difficult time wrapping my mind around it. And what I have learned and continue to learn is to trust myself instead of the process. Because I'm wondering, what does the process even mean? Is it this situation? What does that mean? Seriously, somebody help me understand this, all right? So I'm going to share with you my thoughts about trusting the process. My first question is, why did we stop trusting ourselves? I hear a lot about people want to learn how to trust their intuition. They ask me, how can I trust my intuition? How can I listen to myself more? Because they aren't listening to themselves, or they're listening to themselves and they're not going with or listening to their intuition. And by the way, I've done it as well. In fact, I can tell in my body, there's, a feeling that I have when I didn't listen to it. And my intuition was like, nope, it's literally like a poking feeling that I feel in my stomach. Nope, bad idea, bad idea, bad idea. And I feel like it's different for everybody. And when I've looked back, it's kind of like, yeah, if I would have trusted myself and listened to my intuition, I would have made a completely different decision. Now, that doesn't mean that I went down the wrong path. That's a conversation for another day. Today, I really want to focus on, why did we stop trusting ourselves? And for me, when we start trusting the process or something outside of us like that, it's giving away our power. And so then I asked myself, well, why would I want to give away my power? And I feel like this happens so quickly for a lot of us. Keep in mind, we are spiritual feeling beings who navigate this 3D human experience. Great example of what's happening today. Where we chose to give up our choice. I did a whole podcast on that several months ago, with the mandates, with the injections. Now we have people walking off of their jobs. And what's interesting is it's almost like we just went along with the process of whatever we were told for so many years. And then 2020 came here and was kind of like, bam. Are you going to think for yourself? Are you going to connect with yourself? I mean, I feel like that's why we were forced inside. So you now start to see that people are starting to think for themselves and trust themselves. And I would love to hear from you in the comments. Share, how is this showing up for you in your life? Or what are you seeing out there as well? Because it could be where you work. Maybe you're having a similar experience or a different experience. And I would love to hear from you. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is We already have the power and the knowledge inside of us. We really do. It's a matter of tapping into it and trusting it. And I go back to one of my favorite movies, The Wizard of Oz, where Dorothy had all of the knowledge and the power the entire time. She just chose to go along a journey. And then at the very end, she was like, oh, okay, I see my strength. I see my power. I'm going to take my power back now and I can get home on my own. And as she went throughout the movie, there were all great lessons that she had learned as well. So then the more I got to thinking about this, and by the way, I've been thinking about this for a while. Like, this phrase, and I keep seeing it all over social media, especially today. And I feel like they say it because it's soothing and they aren't quite sure what else to say. And then the other thing I got to thinking is, why are we not trusting God or our higher power? Did we forget about that? And it feels like we're intentionally trying to do life alone. And guess what? We don't have to do life alone. We aren't doing life alone unless we choose not to have a relationship with God, which really is the relationship with ourselves that leads to the relationship with God. God did put us on this earth, and God created us for a purpose. God gave us gifts to use for a purpose. And God's always here with us. In fact, I believe, and my experience has been, that God lives within each one of us. It's a invisible energy cord, and that's how we're all connected. And isn't it interesting? Think of how many years ago when we started to take God out of society. And I said, shortly after that happened, and I started to see that it wasn't just this one situation of school prayer. It was, it was all over. I remember growing up, it was all over the news that we've got to take God out of this and out of that. You gotta take God out of this because it's not my God. And I was so baffled by that. Now, I understand the bigger picture now, and that it's a spiritual war that's been happening for so long. And it's the enemy that came in to do that, right? In the etherical realm. And that here on earth, we get to choose which side are we going to be on. Hi, sweet girl. That's my cat Bubbles. Which side are we going to be on in this spiritual war? And in your life, I did a podcast recently talking about when we only focus on the good, we don't see the enemy. And then we can't denounce the enemy, whatever that enemy looks like for you. And I feel like that's what's happening today is we would rather look to all of these other outside sources instead of ourselves, instead of connecting with God, our higher power, instead of doing anything about it. And oh, by the way, taking personal responsibility. That is the key for this whole thing. This entire situation would come to a halt when the majority takes personal responsibility. And for some reason, we don't want to. It's easier to say, I don't have the time. I don't have the money. You're really saying, I don't want to commit to myself because I know better than God. And when we are in that cycle, whoa, back up. And by the way, I know because I used to do that. I used to think that I knew more than God, that I could do better than God. That's not the case. Simply not the case. So why bring up this topic? Well, the words that we use, it's one of the many ways that we are co-creating our lives. Iyanla Van Zant says that our words are prayers to the universe. And as I'm understanding what they call the kingdom versus religion, that the kingdom, this is speaking things into life. It's already done. You're not asking for them anymore. You believe that it's already done. So, really, it's trusting yourself and believing in God. The two go hand in hand. And by the way, anytime I say God, if that word does not resonate for you, use a different label. When we make this choice, because we are always at choice, when we make this choice to trust ourselves and our intuition and listen and believe in God, believe that it's already done, it's a done deal. Instead of asking for it, hoping for it, wishing and wanting for it, we give our power back to ourselves instead of giving it away to other people, to the government, to the mandates, to everything else outside of us. We get to be true to us, especially our body, because what's right for you may not be right for me, and it's not going to be right for other people. We are as unique as our individual thumbprint. Everyone's body functions differently. Everybody listens to their intuition differently. And that's why in class, a lot of people will come to the Live on Purpose course and they'll say, well, I want this answer. Well, the answer is within inside you. And that's what you're there in class for, as I give you these new tools for you to really understand how to listen to yourself, how to become aware to your body, how to become aware to your intuition. Because as you cultivate that relationship with yourself, you're now cultivating that relationship with God. The other thing I've noticed is that we are seeking a lot of outside validation instead of validating ourselves. And I feel like that's what this is, because we don't trust ourselves. Now, if you would like and are interested, curious, if you'd like to learn how to trust yourself and how that impacts your relationship with God, the divine source, I invite you to join the next Live on Purpose course. Every week, we focus on a different activity, a different tool that you can use in your life toolbox. You will leave with clarity. You'll leave with direction, whether it be in your career or your life, whatever it is that you'd like to focus on. You're going to start to understand how the angels are communicating with you, how to communicate back with them. You're going to start to trust yourself. And you're going to start to understand how you individually are co-creating with the universe, with God. So you'll receive over $1,300 worth of between coaching, online meditation cafe. You'll have access to that. You'll receive a journaling workbook that you can use anytime after class. We're going to use it during class. You'll also have one private data healing session and one private numerology session, and some other goodies as well. And it's just one payment of $627 or four payments of $161.75. The next class, which is the last class for 2021, make sure that you're registered and you join by October 15th. Then after that, we decide when to meet weekly as a group. And the earlier that you get in, the better, because that gives you time to get you jump start on the journaling worksheets before we meet, because the intention is to meet next week. All of the details are hearts-joy.com/live on purpose. Start trusting yourselves. Take back your power. Take back personal responsibility. And we are all here for each other in this loving, supporting community together. Thank you all so much for joining, and I cannot wait to hear from you. Sending you much love.